That is quite interesting. Now, we're in a world today of modern technology. And, you know, even in churches and so on, I know, for example, the Catholic Church, in some places, you know, you keep baptismal records and marriage books and so on that would keep all of that. And you used to put them in a vault. Sometimes they were not in a vault, so they were very susceptible to the elements.
Yes.
Suppose there was a fire,
Yeah.
you know, or a flood or something like that, they can easily be lost. But today people are talking about putting things online, which makes it easier, for example, to find something that you're looking for,
Yes.
to find the name.
Yes.
So in other words, you just type the name in and you can find the person and things like that. Now, what plans are there to put the archives online?
We're working on a database. It's based on a program called ATOM, A2M, Access to Memory.
Okay.
It's designed specifically for the use of archives. I've inputted into it so far most of our series relating to the colonial period.
Right.
I want to try and start experimenting with the images now. We've gotten images through government, through private individuals, through some organizations and so on. So you will not find everything online. I don't think any archives is going to aim to do that.
To put everything online.
Yeah. A lot of records are only in demand once in a while,
Right.
you know? So it might not be worth the investment of time and money
Sure.
and even storage space
Sure.
to have them done that to that extent.
Sure.
But we are becoming aware of which areas people are interested in, and we're trying to make sure that we give descriptions of the series, so you'll know exactly what that series contains. We're trying to identify volumes that are missing or in need of repair, which
Yes.
means that they cannot be handled.
Okay.
And so these are things that will emerge onto
Sure.
the database.
Sure.
In most cases, we will not go into letter by letter. Like, for instance, a volume that covers 2 years of correspondence with the governor.
Sure.
We probably won't break it down to that extent. But we have had, like, for instance, the files of the administrator. Those are listed by names.
Sure.
We will probably do eventually, when the time comes, because these things are still closed, personnel records and so on. So it'll be easier for people to search. Like, for instance, the records of the administrator, there was talk about recreation grounds in Sandy Point, but within the file there was mention of some names and so on. So in the database, we put in the title of the file, the search point Sandy Point, and then the search point for other names and so on. So
Okay.
these things will be
Sure.
a lot more easier to find in the future.
Mr. Falhati, as we're carrying on our discussion, we will have to go to the phone lines and to see who is really interested in archives,
Okay.
and to see what questions they have, what suggestions they have, or comments that they have. And I want you to know, for the people out who are listening to us, that I am speaking to Mrs. Victoria Oflahati, a very passionate woman in terms of the preservation of our history, preservation of records. She is the director of the National Archives. We are going to open the phone lines, and of course you're welcome to call. The international number is 1-718-577-2916. That is 1-718-577-2916. And the local number is 465-2555. That is 465-2555. We welcome your calls. Okay, there are no callers on the line, so we can continue our discussion, Mrs. O'Flaherty. Now, how can the archives basically help in schools?
My favorite topic. You see, when I first came to St. Kitts, everybody looked at me and they said, "Oh, history, you'll teach," which
So
I
you thought
hated.
okay.
Because I didn't want to teach. But I did teach for 14 years.
Long time.
Both at convent in those days, it was, and then at the George Moody.
Okay.
And because of where I come from, I grew up with a consciousness of history.
Sure.
Malta is an island fortress, and everywhere you move from one street to the next, there's some story to be told. And I realized that there was a bit of that here. And it irked me a lot that we couldn't do it in the schools. Mainly because there was very little that was written. At the time when I came, there were 2 books circulating, Sir Probyn Innes's Historic Bastere.
Yes.
And I think there were still a few copies around of Kathleen Manchester's book on the history of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay.
But there was so much still that needed to be done, and I found that I couldn't get children motivated in the classroom to take an interest. There were no museums to go to.
Right.
So I am very passionate about making material available to schools. That was one of the reasons why we built Bastere Past and Present, or Historic Bastere as it's known commonly. We're hoping that now that we've gathered enough information on some of the plantations, we can turn it into Historic St. Kitts. And it will follow the same guidelines as the Historic Bastere one. We also try, I'm quite happy if a teacher was to come to us and tell us he or she's dealing with a group of kids and their topic is going to be this. What information do we have? We would put that together.
Sure.
And maybe even produce copies so that they could be used in school, because our opening hours are not conducive for kids in school.
Right.
Although we have had kids come to us during
school hours?
No, some of them take off a day and come. And then we have those that will come in during the Easter and Christmas vacation, or in some cases during the summer vacation.
Right.
A really dedicated one would do it. I think one of the things is that teachers are not aware of the history themselves, which is one of the reasons why I tried to run a course twice now.
Okay.
Called Exploring Kittitian History at UWI, at the open campus.
Good attendance for that?
Fairly good.
Okay.
Fairly good. Certainly very enthusiastic students, and it was energizing for me.
Sure.
And it made me want to continue doing it. But again, I think in the 2 sessions we've had, we only had one teacher.
Okay. One teacher?
Yes.
In the entire class that you had?
Yeah. Maybe we need to talk to the Department of Education and find out if they want to run it as a different course at a different time, It could be done. I'll be happy to do that.
Right.
My mission is not to make money out of
Right.
it. It's to make sure that kids get to appreciate their own history, and if teachers cannot make them do that, then who on earth is going to?
Sure. Now, I understand that you are working on a database to cover the archives collection. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
We have a number of databases going. The main one will be the A2M1 that I've discussed already, which will be searchable and so on. We have the databases that were created by Elder Whiting, which we hope to put online eventually. If we ever get a chance, we'll try to include scans of the information that's in the database. But
Sure.
even without that, there's still quite a bit that's of interest. Then we have databases of different sections of the collections, just to make it easier for us to pinpoint things. Like, for instance, I mentioned earlier the administrator's files. I can pick out items that relate to private individuals, to locations, to things like water, that sort of thing. So although we're not there 100%, we do keep struggling, and sometimes
Sure.
I keep wondering whether I'm killing our prospects of getting something decent, because we try so hard,
Right,
Right. Yeah, but we try,
Okay.
and I'd appreciate a moment just to thank Mavis Johnson Vaughan, my assistant, and
sure.
Kyle Maynard, my other
Right.
assistant, for doing a
wonderful job.
Yeah, helping me deal with the public, putting all kinds of information together for individuals, and also scanning material so that when the time comes and we find the funds to put these things online,
Yes.
the material is ready to go.
Right. Now, Gems of the Archives
Yeah,
was one of your
little projects.
little projects.
Yes.
That you take great pride in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us about this? I like it. Gems of the Archives.
Yes. That's something that was inspired by two apps that I put on my phone some years ago. I don't think they're on this one. That just goes to show you how long ago they showed up. One was created by the Library of Congress, and one was by the National Archives in England. And obviously we don't have the money to go and create an app. But at the same time, I was on a mission to try and get the politicians to give us some money to build this building that I keep begging for.
Yes.
And I told myself, maybe if they see what we have, they'll appreciate it. I mean, think of it. If this necklace that I'm wearing is just something that it's fashion jewelry. But if it was a diamond, I would have a special box for it. And I told myself, maybe they'll realize there are diamonds there that need that special box that I keep begging for.
The gems.
Yes. So the gems started out as a way of increasing awareness among people. And the nice thing was that a number of people not only read them, passed them on, but also introduced others who begged to be put on the list. And what they do is they're little tiny bits of history.
Yes.
The first one was a very old photograph, almost blurred because it wasn't taken very well, of the masquerades at the bottom of Church Street. Another one was the oldest map we have in the collection. Then we had the story of John Africa,
Yes.
who owned land in Half Moon Bay. You know, things like that. Because so much of it is official, you think that the story of individuals aren't there, but they are.
Right.
You know, and we try to give a sense of everything, the individuals, the big decisions, the little tragedies, and the big ones that have happened in our society. And that's what these gems are.
Okay.
They're a sharing of a particular item, kind of like, you know, the Japanese have these haikus, the poems, the short poems that capture so much in them.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do.
I know that SKNIS has been producing some of these gems of the archives.
Yes, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yes.
And I'm so happy that 2 government departments actually cooperate.
Right. And, you know, when it was brought to me
Yeah.
as the director of the department, I certainly liked it and supported it, you know, and we have been
Yes.
doing it.
And a big thanks
You
to
know.
Carissa for
Carissa Franks.
spearheading it.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, now we have been talking about all of this. Why is it so important to have a national archive? Why is it so important?
Because without it, the nation would have Alzheimer's. It's the memory of the nation,
Yes.
you know? And yes, you don't want to remember everything, or certainly not with the kind of intensity that some people feel, and maybe there are aspects like enslavement which are horrendous, but without knowing that part, we ignore a certain area of history and diminish our success. Because when think of today and education. We send our kids to school. Our kids finish school, they've got their CXC passes, they go on to CSC, they go on to university. Back in the days of slavery, they couldn't even think of all that. And yet, these people who did not have the opportunity made it a little better each generation until we came to the point where we are today. And without the archives, we do not have that story. You know, so, I mean, there was something called the small gang. That's where the kids ended up. They were cutting, weeding fields and, you know, pulling up weeds and bringing grass for the animals and things like that. They weren't being taught, except for a few very, very lucky kids who somebody decided, okay, we'll send them to a trade school or to a tradesman to be trained or teach them to read, you know, that sort of thing. But they were the exceptions, not the rule, you know. So yes, I think that without the National Archives, we would be a lot poorer when it comes to our own psyche as a nation. And there's a wealth of information in there that could make us such a proud people, because the story of St. Kitts is the story of struggle and success, and that's where we need to what we need to keep in mind.
Yeah, but so having the archives is one thing, which you have this collection of records, and managing those records is another thing.
Yes.
How do you find managing the records? What are some of your challenges in managing the records?
The biggest challenge is space, because they don't diminish, they increase with time. And people tell you, oh, you can scan. But scanning a paper document and then throwing it away is not done, because the paper document is the original.
Right.
And archives should be original.
Sure.
You scan for access. You also have to make room or make space for digital records, which will be coming to us eventually. And again, that needs money, that needs space, because a server for them to sit on, again, is that space again. Even if you're going to go with the cloud, which I'm very hesitant about.
Okay.
It
sounds a bit nebulous.
Yes. Apart from being nebulous, I don't know, these horror stories of hacking and so on really frighten me. And the loss of control over the information. I want to know that what belongs to St. Kitts stays in St. Kitts and it's not being traded on WikiLeaks and God knows what else.
I see.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So, yeah, there are issues. Space, as I said, is the biggest one. If we could get that, then obviously we would probably want a few more staff. Not hundreds, but
yes, to manage the records.
Yes. So that would be another bonus. We've been lucky in the sense that way back in 98 we redid the vault, so we created a little bit more space that way. And this year we got a server, so a lot of the scanning is being put on a safer footing than simply a PC.
Sure.
But it's almost like pulling teeth, trying to persuade people that these are important things. And what hurts me is that the fact that in other countries you don't go through this. No, I'm probably exaggerating. They do, but there's a basic that is met, and we're not even meeting that, because the vaults that we have were created in the 1960s when government headquarters was built.
Yes.
And even then, the authorities were told these aren't good. They weren't good enough. They were the architect who designed them, Colin Laird. We know who designed them. He intended for them to be used as a record center and a kind of in-between place.
Yes.
When you don't need records in the departments and they're not quite ready to go into archives, So he created that space for them. But they ended up being the vaults for very, very precious records.
Right.
And there was no infrastructure put in the sense of ventilation, probably because of safety issues, and that would have been the main thing. But what it's done is it's exposed the records we have to some very horrible humidity. And although we tried to install dehumidifiers, the walls in the back are so thick that we couldn't get anything
to the back
so that the water would drain out constantly. And I have this horrible vision of the dehumidifier filling up and pouring all over the place. I know they have sensors for these things, but I'm not sure how efficient sensors can be.
Sure.
So yeah, there are all kinds of issues we're dealing with, and some of them could so easily be handled.
Be resolved.
If only we could. I mean, I'd be happy to work out of a factory shed, that was made safe for us.
Yes. Now, you are a member of Memory of the World,
Yes.
which is a UNESCO program for preservation of documents. You're on that committee.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience on that committee?
Okay. Memory of the World is UNESCO's counterpart. Just like Brimstone Hill is part of World Heritage, Memory of the World takes care of the... World Heritage takes care of sites.
Right.
Memory of the World takes care of documentary heritage. I am on their International Advisory Committee and the Bureau. I have probably another year to go on that. And what we do is every 2 years, we assess submissions from different countries about what these countries feel are records of international value. So they're not just valuable to the country that produced them, but they're considered valuable to the world.
Okay.
St. Kitts has one record on it already, the Registry of Slaves.
Okay.
I worked on that with a number of other islands in the Caribbean, and we produced a submission together. And this year I submitted the stipendiary magistrates journals. The stipendiary magistrates were the magistrates who were sent out to monitor the period after emancipation.
Sure.
And St. Kitts is lucky to have about 20 of them, I think. I keep forgetting what number.
That's a good number for a place so small.
Yes, and none of the other islands have them except Jamaica having one.
Wow.
And Jamaica had a lot of magistrates, so I don't know.
That is amazing.
Yes, yeah. So we do have those, and we next year we'll know whether we made the international register again.
Sure.
And then after that we'll think of another one. Submit.
Okay. Now I wanted to come to this question some time ago, and in some ways you alluded to it. But what is government support for the National Archives?
They pay us. We can't complain about that. They provide us with some funds for supplies. Not enough, but at the same time, we don't have the storage space, so we can't really complain about that too hard either. The biggest support would be the building.
Yes. Having a place.
Yes. Yes. And I have made endless suggestions over the years about where we could go, and I've had other people make suggestions. Calvin Pemberton was director of public works at one point, and together we went and looked at the area around the sugar factory to see if we could maybe combine the National Archives with a factory museum, in the sense of there is a presence there besides the fact that there's a structure. Nothing has come out of them so far. We do have a plot of land in Limekeel, but the funds to actually build on it have not been made available. I would like to give a special thanks to Sir Tapley, who has been very supportive in recent, since he's become governor, Governor General, for his support and for the fact that he keeps pushing this whole idea of a building for archives. He has some ideas about where it should be as well. So I'll leave that for now.
Right. Okay.
But he's been amazing.
But he's passionate about history.
Yes. We have never had a supporter like him, or even a supporter in the past.
Right.
Just somebody who is interested for a little while, and to us that's very important.
Yes.
I keep hoping that one of these days the ministers of government will think about the legacy they're leaving behind.
Right.
Because National Archives is the place that's going to preserve it for them. And I'm not sure that they're thinking that way. So hopefully.
What will it take for them to think that way?
Um,
Isn't it full time?
yes, yes. I don't know. I've tried everything. Maybe not enough with this present government, but
Yes.
Lord, I've been trying it for almost 20 years now, and
Wow.
I'm tired.
Don't give up. I know that you're helping churches as well with their
Yes.
records.
Yes.
And this is one of your projects. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
We've been trying to get the churches interested for the longest while, and in a way, it's a kind of almost like a catch-22 situation, or the chicken and the egg situation. I don't know, where you want the public to be involved, therefore the churches would be part of that public. You want to help them look after their records, but at the same time you don't have the space.
Yes.
But it has to start at some point, and we really would like for other people besides me to talk to the politicians and tell them this is
Sure.
important to them. And we were lucky enough to have Reverend Magnell in Sandy Point give us a chance with some of the more damaged records that were falling apart, and she let us scan them for her.
Sure.
And we are in the process of creating a spreadsheet, just like we have for the births and marriages, for the christenings, and then later on we'll do the marriages and the deaths as well. So we want the churches to help us. We want to help them.
Yes.
Same thing with the different business organizations. The other day we had the Wade and Abbott records that were the forerunners of TDC deposited with us, so we're quite happy with that.
Sure.
You know, the more of the sort of thing happening, chances are that people will appreciate it more. We will certainly make it more available. If I have the time, I will even write histories
Sure.
about them. But at least they're there, and if somebody comes and tells us they want to do a project, we will do our best to help them right through.
Sure. Now, Mrs. Aflahati, we are out of time.
Okay.
And we have to be wrapping up. And I would ask you if you have anything that you would want to say in closing.
I think I've more or less covered
You're more or
everything
less.
now.
But I want to ask you a question. I will go back to where I started. And I will end with this question. What will the world look like without archives?
I think it will be a very sad place.
Very sad.
Yes. I can't think of not being able to go to my little drawer at home where I keep my grandmother's and my mother's photographs and the letters I wrote to my husband and the letters I wrote to my parents after I came here, you know, things like that. I mean, those are my own personal archives.
Sure.
And one of these days my children will be able to read them.
Sure.
Hopefully not when I'm alive. but hey,
Right.
and I think that's what gives life another dimension that's worth having. It's a richness, a value that you just need,
Yes.
you know? Otherwise, what would you call it? I mean, it's like not having a history in that case.
Yes. It will be a lost world.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Mr. Bahati, I want to thank you so much for being on our program today. I am very delighted.
Thank you.
And I know this is a passion that you have in terms of the maintenance and preservation of records. You're the director of the National Archives. You've been there for a number of years now, and you're doing a very, very good job. And I know that there are so many things that you would like to see. You have a vision, and you only want people to share your vision
Yes.
and to see the importance, basically, of a national archives. Well, I hope that this government will share your vision.
Thank you.
And come on board and deliver some of the things. The most important thing, a place for our National Archives, where there's more space, something more modern, and so on. I think
Healthy and comfortable.
that it should be a priority.
Yes.
As you yourself said, we have to think in terms of our legacy,
Yes.
what we're leaving behind. So I want to thank you again. I cannot thank you enough. You were listening to another edition of Working for You. I was quite honored to have with me today Mrs. Victoria Oflaherty, the director of our National Archives. I am your host, Lesroy Williams. I want to thank all of you out there, those of you in the diaspora, and those of you at home who listened to today's program. We hope that it was very informative and enlightening to you. Remember, tomorrow on Freedom FM, we have a rebroadcast from 7:30 to 9 a.m. on Von Radio in Nevis from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. I am Lesroy Williams. Have a good day. Thank you.
Working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for You is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for You.